TCL is a proud sponsor of the 1500 ESPN studios. TCL, America's fastest growing TV brand.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed saying touch 'em all.
Way back and gone! Touch 'em all, Joe Mauer!
And now these guys are making it relevant to this year's Twins.
Now, our two resident hardball nerds will attempt to touch 'em all on the week's news surrounding the Twins in MLB. Here's Phil Mackey and Derek Wetmore.
Hello and welcome to a special edition Touch 'em All podcast. I'm Derek Wetmore. Judd Zulgad joins me to break down the Joe Mauer day at Target Field, and what a day it was, Judd. I don't know that the Twins, if they were trying to, could have scripted it any better than the final game of the 2018 season.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and to see Joe in the ninth there come out and catch, and the build-up to it. So Kepler flies out to end the eighth. And Max, like, there's this silence, and there's this, like, buzz.
Yes.
And Max obliviously starts to trot out to right field. And I think Jeff Smith, the first base coach, you could see him say, Max, come here.
Get back in here for a second.
And everybody from the Twins is on the top step, it looked like, of the dugout. Now, we can't see in from the press box.
Right.
So you knew something was coming, but you didn't know what. And then to see this, like, pause and this anticipation, and then to see Joe emerge in catching gear. If you didn't get a little bit misty at that point, I mean, it was absolutely kudos to Dave St. Peter, the Twins, kudos to what they did. Everything through the eighth was very nice for Joe.
Yeah.
But that was fantastic.
Yes.
Like, that was, and
That's a top Target Field moment.
Yeah, oh yeah. And for Joe, who said that they basically, that he was approached on Friday about this, and he's like, oh, shucks, geez, guys, I don't think so.
I don't know.
And then his friends are like, no, this makes sense. It was really cool, and it was really well done.
He goes out there, he catches one pitch from fellow veteran Matt Belisle. It was a ball. It was sort of a modified pitch out.
Yeah, we think Belisle was instructed to throw a ball, but Belisle in
He
the
said he
postgame
tried
was like, I want to throw a strike.
Right.
But it sounds like it was orchestrated with the White Sox to be a take. So I think the Twins did say, Matty, don't throw a cookie, because you'll get strike one, and the White Sox are doing us a solid here.
Right. It's like it had flashbacks to the 2014 All-Star game when, I can't remember, was it Adam Wainwright said he grooved the pitch to Derek Jeter in Jeter's farewell game. This is very we can break down the rest of the game. We'll get to the other moments. I'm reading your first post on 1500ESPN.com right now with the sort of moment by moment of Joe Mauer's possibly final day. But let's start with this. He's got to retire, right? That's it. That's the bow. That's the curtain call. That is the height of goodbyes as far as baseball is concerned, right?
Derek, I think you're 1,000% right. Listen, here's the weird thing, all right? In Joe's post-game presser, in the amount of time, and that was how long?
Oh, 10 minutes
or
tops.
So? That's as much as we've seen from Joe. Like, I wanted to say, Joe, do you understand if you had been like this for the last 15 years, the perception of you in this town is completely different?
Superstar.
Because he's completely – and it's not that his personality morphed and changed, but there's something there.
Yeah.
And his answers, and he told stories about this whole situation and catching. And I wanted to say, Joe, if you had done this for 15 years, the perception of you in this town is completely different. All of that being said, as I said to you in the clubhouse – if Joe doesn't retire now, it's the most tone-deaf thing ever. Well, and in some ways, and you know what? In some ways, I really think the Twins are going to be, if not sort of miffed, and I don't mean Molitor and that group, but I mean the executives.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to the means that they went to do this for Joe, that's clearly sort of it's been a great run push. So, yes, if Joe now comes back in November and vacillates and goes Favre,
that's right.
It's really tone deaf.
That's right.
So, yes, it was the perfect send-off. It was outstanding. And I know that he basically wants to get some time now to make a decision and decompress. I get all that, but he's got to retire.
He has to.
I mean, without being a jerk about it,
no, this
was really nice.
Right.
Like, there's no way you can say, I know you went through all that, but I'm coming back.
Look. This is the way I view it. This is storybook, man. You can't you don't get to write very many things in pro sports. You've been around pro sports long enough to know, Judd. There are just days that you can't make up.
Yep.
So there are days that are okay. It's the same old, same old. Sunday at Target Field was not same old, same old.
Correct.
And it would feel weird to me if Joe's number 7 bag was plopped down at a corner clubhouse stall in Fort Myers in a few months.
He's done though, right? Like did he not?
Well,
seem
let's
done
back this
to
up.
you?
Let's back this up because we came into today, Judd. We both covered Sunday's game, and I came into Sunday. I came into the weekend. Frankly, I came into September thinking this is it for Joe Mauer. Joe Mauer is done. It's just a matter of time. Let's see how this final month plays out. I hope, selfishly, because I like storylines, I hope he catches Harmon Killebrew in terms of getting on base all time in a Twins uniform, which he's done. He checked that off well before Sunday. And I thought, yeah, this is a pretty good. His body's probably defied him one more time than he cares. Mm-hmm. The concussion earlier this season, I think, is going to be a big factor when he sits down, gets that space, gets to self-reflect and thinks, boy, if I come back again, I mean, you're talking about there's family considerations, there's professional considerations, but now we're talking health considerations. I thought this was it. Then I came to the park on Sunday, and I said, yeah, this is it, right? We were just kind of chit-chatting in the press box, and you said, yeah, maybe, but pro athletes they're within their rights to reverse their decision,
right.
Change their mind. 3 weeks from now, Joe Mauer might be starting to feel a little bit better. He might start to think, gosh, I'm not ready to start thinking about life after baseball.
And his wife might say, play again.
They might say, hey, go back. And the Twins might come begging and say, hey, we're going to be good next year. We're going to spend some money. We're going to go get some players. It's going to be a big winter for us. We'd love for you to take us back to the postseason or at least be a part of that trip.
Yep.
And I started thinking through Sunday's game, I thought, yeah, Judd's right. There's something to that he might turn heel. Even if he's made up his mind today, It might be different 3 weeks from now. Now, having seen out the way, not only the double played out, but the catching, the curtain call, the way the teammates received him, the best press conference of his career, there's no way that I could even envision him contemplating coming back now.
Well, and this was, and this is going to sound harsh, but I don't mean it to be a jerk. This also was the biggest push out the door I've seen for a player since Favre retired from the Packers.
Sure.
In 2007.
Right.
Just in the sense that you don't do all these things for a player.
Well, I mean, what more could you have
done?
Like
you don't
really?
show. No, right. No, but I'm trying not to be a jerk here because the
No,
Twins
I'm with
did
you.
a good job.
I'm with you.
So this is not me saying that Joe's being done wrong here.
Right.
But he clearly has told them or indicated to them, and you know what? They might say to themselves too, we want a clean break.
Sure.
I mean, this was not a good team. This is a team that's going to have a ton of cash to spend, potentially.
Yep.
This is a team that might say to itself, we want players that we want, our style of play, our roster.
That's right.
So, there's just – but when he came out and caught, I said – because I'll go back to this. If you come out and catch one pitch and it's that special, and then November 15th, you're like, you know what? I'm coming back.
How about a 2-year deal, boys?
Right. The tone deafness of doing
Yes.
that is, and some athletes have it.
Yep.
Joe, I don't know that well, but I got to think that Joe knows that today was made special, not just because it's a Lifetime Achievement Award, and hey, if you come back in 19 and 20, that's great. I got to think that he knows that this was a huge pat on the back, 15 years. You're going to be in the Twins Hall of Fame. Hell, you might go eventually into the Baseball Hall. But all of that being said, that this was the Twins saying, it's been great.
I think if nothing else, this moment, and it was a series of moments, but really the moment in the ninth inning, comes out, the catcher back in the saddle again, plays over the loudspeakers. I mean, that to me, if I'm sitting in Joe Mauer's shoes in 3 weeks from now, and the season's in my rearview mirror, MLB postseason still going on, I'm contemplating my future. Hey, if I retire, what does life look like after baseball? Or, hey, do I have the gas left in the tank to go another year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever? As I think about that, this moment weighs so heavily on my mind that it couldn't be a more perfect goodbye, a more special send-off, or as Paul Molitor called it, a beautiful day at Target Field. I think this adds a little bit of weight to that side of the argument that says, maybe go out on top. Maybe this is the perfect time to say goodbye. I want to back up, even just before the game, Judd. We talked about Mauer. Obviously, this is Joe Mauer Day at Target Field. That pregame moment with his daughters standing at first base at Kids Day.
Yep.
I'm as cynical as they come. I know you're right up there, too. That was a pretty special moment.
The whole day was perfect. Like, I just keep going back to the fact that the Twins did this completely right.
Yes.
Everything they did was completely right. And it carried the perfect tone. And I now, in retrospect, I love the fact that Joe was not going to come out and say, I'm done playing. And instead of the Twins being like, well, at the end of the game, we'll allow a standing ovation or something like that. That this is because the interesting thing about this is if you think about historically great players in Twins history, you have a very short list, and it might be 0 until today, of guys whose career have come to an end at home, and that's been it, and the team did things right.
Right.
Killebrew went to KC and played for the Royals for a year, so that was too bad.
Yep.
Carew got traded, and you knew Carew's last game at the Met was his last game, but it's a very different thing, I think, the dynamic of I'm retiring or
that's right.
I'm still young and good.
My career is going on, but it's just going on
Which
somewhere
Rodney
else.
Was. Right.
Yes.
And there was...
We should see other people is what that is.
Right. And Calvin and Rodney had a huge falling out by that point, so there was nothing really kind about that. Herbeck, we knew, I think, was going to be done at the end of 94, but then don't forget, in August, the strike hits, and I think they're in Oakland during that year to end the year, so there's no, okay, this is Kent Herbeck Day. Torrey comes as close as you can get.
Yeah, I was at Torrey's goodbye.
But there was still that whole thing of Torrey might come back, and Torrey had played to a point there where you're like, you might not be done.
Yeah.
And so that was a nice goodbye.
Are you talking 2015 or 2007? The first
2015.
Time? Okay.
No, I'm saying when Torrey played his last game here,
and they played the video tribute on the big board and everything.
But there was still talk about the Twins would like to bring him back at that point, and he had been a great asset for that club. The difference with Joe is you sort of get the feeling it's done here, and the Twins did such a good job with the whole thing, from his girls being out there to the tributes that they played throughout the game, which were, in typical Joe fashion, understated.
Yes.
But nice.
Yes.
The old commercials.
They struck a great tone with that.
And then the catching thing was just such a cool, this is so un-Mauer-like, but yet it's him.
You know what? The double in the seventh inning, he comes up.
Oh, yeah, that's another great moment.
That part itself, I thought, wow, that's the cake. That's the cherry on top of a nice, quiet, understated, as you said.
But he takes second.
But a nice day for Joe Mauer. Works the count full, slices a double to left field gap, left center. I thought for sure he was going to get thrown out at second base.
Yep.
Legged it out, and that's Joe. Patient hitter. One of the best eyes I've seen at the plate ever. The fact that double fell in between a shift where the right fielder was basically standing in center field, so they were playing him to hit it that way, and he still drops it in there. And then just a smart read on the bases, sees the center fielder's weight shifting a little bit too far to one side and knew that he was going to have an extra split second. In a one-run game, he said, trying to get into scoring position. I'm sitting in the press box thinking to myself, as I can't remember if I was holding my phone trying to take video of that at that point or not. I'm a semi-professional photographer in my spare time.
Lots of people are now.
Yes.
Too many, I think.
I'm in that group for sure. But I was thinking, wow, what a nice moment. Joe, go ahead and pinch run for him, Molly. That's the spot you take him out. You put somebody in there. It doesn't matter who.
Yep.
The game is irrelevant. Whether you win 77 games or 78, nobody cares.
Yep.
Let Joe tip his cap. This is his moment. And then they just one-upped it, 10 times in the ninth inning. They jumped off the top rope.
I thought the same thing that you thought, and then they didn't do that, and so I thought, okay, he's going to come out in the ninth, and his teammates are going to stay behind. He'll go to first base and then get replaced. But the whole idea...
It's brilliant.
Well, it's brilliant, and it's only the opportunity only exists with X amount of players who played a different position, and catchers off the charts.
Right.
But for Joe to talk about how he agreed to this on Friday, and then on Saturday, I believe, found his old catching gear, which he had taken home and, according to him, hadn't opened up the bag since 2013.
Isn't that crazy?
And was going to, I mean, if this is all true, which I'm guessing it is, but it's a great story, but was going to make a shadow box of his catching equipment, but he didn't do it. So it was still sitting there, and he tossed it in the car. And then so people didn't find out. It was in his trunk, it sounds like, and the equipment guy during the course of the game eventually goes out and gets it and puts it at Joe's locker.
Yep.
And then in the 8th, at some point in time, he goes down and dresses. But seriously, the Twins have done some things this year as a franchise that have driven me absolutely batty, and I don't get. But as far as the PR move of this goes and the ode to a player, this, in this town, I'm trying to think off the top of my head very quickly here. Might be the best. It might be the best thing I've seen.
You know, this reminds me, just as you say that, the only one that I can think. So I was at Torrey's goodbye in 2007, and even then, that wasn't a for sure goodbye. That was a you're going to be a free agent, and we're not sure how it's going to happen. They ended up offering him a contract, but it wasn't what the Angels gave him.
Right.
But he runs out for the 9th inning and then is pulled just before the first batter comes up. It's like Jason Tyner or somebody ran out there.
Sure.
So he gets to walk off to the Metrodome crowd, losing its collective mind. The one that reminds me, and we were together for this one actually, you, Phil Mackey, and I were sitting at a sports bar in Fort Myers when Kevin Garnett came back. And that's the only thing in my brief sports writing career that I can think that even comes close to really matching this in terms of the importance and the emotion poured out from the fans, from the player.
Yep.
KG coming back to the Target Center is right up there, 1A and 1B with this Joe Mauer send-off to me.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and that was outstanding. And Flip did a great job there.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, unfortunately, things changed. Flip passed away, and then KG felt betrayed again by Glenn Taylor. But that night was the perfect tone. And this was – but the thing about KG, too, is he was such a dynamic personality.
Sure.
That I mean, this is getting a guy who we've never felt that we've known.
Right. And then we saw him cry. 3 times.
I just wanted to shake him by the shoulders and say, dude, if you'd done this for 15 years, do you know how popular you would have been?
He'd own this town.
And you don't have to show a lot. Right. But where I give the Twins so much credit is they took a guy who begs for being lost in the shuffle.
Yes.
Like he has no interest in this stuff.
Right.
And they took a guy who, because with KG, it's KG, you know.
That's right.
And ordinarily with players, more often than not, I think if they're stars, they do have personalities. Joe really doesn't. And just, but the catching thing. And you knew something was up. And then you're just watching that. And then he jogs out and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
So, but I'm with you. I got to think he's done.
There was this quiet buzz around Target Field.
I got to think he's done, and I'll tell you what. I mean, post-game here, I get the feeling that there's going to be changes, and lots of them here. I mean, this is a very disappointing year, and I think you're going to see a lot of shuffling here, and it would not shock me one bit if Paul's not back either. So that's what I'm saying is I think there's a very good chance that this franchise is going to hit a reset button of a pretty big nature.
Yeah.
And so that they'd be saying, you know, Joe, we could use you, but you'd be platooning. And
yeah, that's right.
And for as good as Joe still can be at times, it's so streaky now.
Yeah.
Like there are 2 weeks where you're like, oh, he's got it back. And then there's a month where he doesn't. And the concussions came back.
Right.
And I got to think to have been as good as he was, Derek, for an extended period. I mean, 3 batting titles as a catcher is unheard of.
Yeah.
Right. So I got to think he wasn't just good, he was great. And the team didn't obviously always flourish around him in the playoffs. But that being said, if you sit down and think about it, okay, so you're going to come back at the age of,
36. He'll be 36 in April.
And you're going to be a platoon first baseman. And
that's just it.
And you're going to play sometimes. And by the way, now concussions are a concern again. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons to be like, you know what, today was perfect, and I'm going to go hunting and fishing, and I'm rich, and I got 3 kids.
Come up with a new hobby.
Exactly.
I think.
And that's tough.
It is. And I think that's going to be the biggest pull is what does post-baseball life look like?
NFL. college football, and the biggest UFC fight of the year is all happening. It's a sports fan dream. Don't wait any longer to make your online wagers and head over to betonline.ag to take advantage of the best bonuses in the business. Use promo code PODCAST1 to receive a 50% sign-up bonus today. That's PODCAST1 to receive a 50% sign-up bonus. And speaking of the biggest fight of the year, Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. UFC October 6th at Las Vegas T-Mobile Arena. All wagers, lines, and props for this huge fight. BetOnline.ag has you covered. It's the only place to get in on all the action. Sign up today for the new account and receive a 50% signing bonus using promo code PODCAST1. You don't want to miss out on all this action. McGregor, NFL, college football. There's just one place to go. BetOnline.ag. That's BetOnline.ag, our exclusive partners of Podcast One Sports Net.
I've just spent time just today. Obviously, it's not my future. It's not my life. It's not my career. He'll have much more intimate thoughts about this than I did in passing in the press box. But I just can't convince myself that there's a reason to come back unless he's kept this hidden from us. And it's very possible that this is the case. So I'm not discounting this. But unless he's kept hidden from us, that the only thing that drives him on a day-to-day basis is a World Series ring. I've never gotten that sense from Joe, but Paul Molitor did say post-game, and I believe him, that Mauer is more competitive than most people know, than most people expect. I've always thought Joe has the perfect temperament, as much as Paul Molitor has the perfect temperament for day in and day out grind of a baseball season. I thought Joe Mauer did too, because he wasn't, boy, this last 2 weeks has been great, or boy, this last 2 weeks has been tough. Joe Mauer every day was the cliche box, the jukebox, stick in a quarter and say, boy, sure is going to be nice to pull on the uniform and go get him again today. Yeah. That mentality plays so well in baseball that I just thought that's his thing. He's a routine-based guy. The only case that I could see after the send-off given today, after where his career is now, what is he, career 306 hitter, 388 on-base percentage, which is amazing, 439 career slugging percentage. With all of that being said, the only thing that I could see pulling him right back is if that World Series championship is the number one motivator. I've never gotten the sense that it is, but if it is, that'd be probably the only thing that could top a day like today.
He's such a weird guy because he's
hard to read.
He was so great when he was great, and I don't want to say he's not a competitor, but do I think there's a fire in his belly to win a World Series? I don't think that exists. I think he'd like to win. I think we'd all like to win. But you know what? If he was driven, if the cherry on top was a World Series ring, then I think in June or July, when the writing was on the wall here, you go to Falvey and say, I'll waive the no trade.
Why don't you move me?
And I'll go. Because the Yankees thing really did, and people can laugh all they want and say, we talked about it, it made perfect sense.
Yeah.
You go there, left-handed hitting first baseman. The ballpark suits you really well.
Yep.
You go and
you're just a guy there.
You're just
in
a
that
guy,
lineup.
right? Yeah, right. You're not. It's not as if you signed a multi-year contract.
Yep.
The New York Post would cover your trade, but you would not be a back page guy.
In an odd way, he would be less of a figure.
He would be
in New York than
That's
here.
What I've always said.
Yeah,
that's right. Now, if he had signed a big contract there, it's totally different. But if you get traded there for some reliever.
Sure, to be the sixth best player on an already playoff-bound team.
And you go and you get yourself and your pregnant wife and your two girls for the rest of the summer, a nice penthouse, which you can afford, and you get your ring. Because he's got to know that a ring here is going to take how long.
Well,
and teams can turn things around quickly, but it's different to do what the Twins did in 2017 and become a playoff team, as opposed to we've built a World Series team. I mean, you look at Sano, ? Buxton, ? So I don't want to say he's not competitive. I do believe he is, but a World Series ring could have possibly been had if he had gone elsewhere. And as far as we know, he never broached it, and they never approached him about it.
Yeah, I had heard the day before that conversation had not taken place.
Yeah, so
I'll see if that's true or not. Maybe we'll find out more details.
Fun today. This was awesome.
a wonderful day.
And it was awesome.
Yep, a wonderful day at Target Field, something I'll certainly remember for a long time. The other Target Field moments that jump to mind would be opening day, Glenn Perkins closing out the 2014 All-Star game.
2014 All-Star game with Jeter had the same tone as today.
Yep.
And I give this team credit.
Yeah.
They handled this stuff incredibly well.
Yeah. Nobody grooved him a fastball. But
true. And
other
baseball
than that
came in and obviously ran the All-Star game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this franchise has a really good sense of history.
Yeah.
But you're right. This Target Field opened in 2010.
2010.
The top Target Field moments, obviously opening day against the Red Sox 2010.
Yep.
The All-Star game, without a doubt.
Morneau in the home run derby that same year.
Okay.
That was kind of fun, even though it
I
wasn't
did not
the same
attend the
Morneau.
playoff game in 2010, so I have no
same.
idea if that was a cool. I mean, I'm sure it was cool,
Sure
but
was.
if that was a memorable environment or not. But yeah, this is definitely top 5.
It's up there. It might.
It's sort of sad too because there should be more.
That's right.
I mean, the team's been a dumpster fire way too much, but
yeah,
they outdid themselves. And you know what? Too, kudos to Joe because he could have said no.
That's right.
They had to get him to catch.
That's right.
And he could have been like, his initial reaction was, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And he very easily, and kudos to Joe and his wife, because I'm sure that she had plenty of pull.
She's probably got a vote.
But for him having the sense to go along with what was a really neat plan.
Hey, so you did some digging on that. This will be the last thing, and then I can leave you. And I'll be on your show Monday.
Yes.
So the one local show we still got on 1500 ESPN for the time being.
Starts at 3 p.m.
Mackey and Judd show, 3 to 6. We wanted to do a Touch 'em All podcast to make sure that people who are looking for Joe Mauer, looking for Twins, got that earlier in the day Monday. But I will be on the show at some point, still working with my agent and your booking agent. Yeah, well, they're still working out the details of the timing and all
This
that.
might be your last appearance.
That's right. Well,
in which case, I
they
would
filled
like you
me
emerge in full catcher's gear.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe a
I'd like you to
reporter's
come
notebook.
in full catcher's gear.
That's right. With the
Talk through the mask.
Press note in the top of my derby hat. I think there's plenty to talk about. We can talk Twins. We can talk off season. I know there's a lot to talk about that with the Twins. We'll get into all that on the radio show, and for sure in columns and podcasts throughout this off season, we've got some big plans. But I want to ask you, before we get going here, about the catching moment, how that came about. You did some digging on that today at Target Field. Mauer talked about it. Molitor talked about it a little bit. What can you tell me about the start to finish, soup to nuts, Joe Mauer catching idea from idea to, wow, he's actually out there wiping tears, taking a standing ovation from the Target Field crowd?
Well, Joe talked about the fact that this came actually a few weeks back from his dad, Jake. And Jake didn't approach Joe. He approached Joe's wife, Maddie, and said it would be really cool if we could get Joe to catch one pitch.
That's my favorite part.
The key being it's just one pitch. And so it sounds, but if the translation of this is accurate, it sounds like the bullpen catcher, is it Nate Dahman?
Nate Dahman, yeah.
Okay, Nate Dahman and Derek Shelton, a coach on the staff.
And Dahman's been here forever.
And he's Joe's good friend.
One of his good buddies.
Which is so Joe-like.
Yes.
I'm really good friends with the chef and bullpen coach or
That's
something, right? So it sounds like Dahman and Shelton approached Joe on Friday and said, this is the idea. And Joe said, I don't think so. But part of it sounds like he said, Maddie would kill me.
Yeah.
And so then she was on board. And it sounds like she then said, no, it's fine, catch one pitch.
Yeah, because it was 5 years ago that Mauer said, hey, this foul tip, this concussion, this is a scary deal. This isn't just baseball, this is life. I remember sitting in the 1500 ESPN dungeon, that side studio on the AM side, listening to the press conference where Mauer said, yep, this is it. I'm going to be a first baseman now. And the talk this is funny now. At the time, it was, well, maybe getting out from behind the plate will help his power numbers. That was all the talk.
That was a big mistake.
That I wouldn't have said that. But it was, he wanted to honor that decision that he made at the time that said, I'm not going behind the plate because of risk, future health concerns.
Like his wife had a big say in probably saying you shouldn't catch, which he shouldn't have.
Right, 5 years ago.
5 years ago, right. So it sounds like now she said, no, that's fine, go catch one pitch. And so he thought about it, and Shelton and Dahman basically laid out, here's how it'll work, you'll be fine. we'll come to an agreement with the White Sox hitter not to swing at the pitch.
Send him a nice bottle of champagne.
Exactly right.
Sure.
And then they basically, it sounds like at some point in time, Joe either thought of or was told, who do you want to throw the pitch?
Yeah.
And it's funny, I didn't realize this till we were in the clubhouse today. The last game he caught, I believe, was started by Kyle Gibson, who was the last guy on the pitching staff who actually pitched to Joe. Now, Kyle didn't pitch today, so Joe said, my buddy Matt Belisle should throw the pitch. And so he then, but Mauer said he went, and for the first time since 2013 on Saturday night, opened up his catching gear at home. And in typical Joe fashion, because you can totally envision this, put the gear on over his street clothes. And then he said he sort of started to well up and or cry at that point.
Yeah.
But then he put it back in his bag, took the bag out, put the bag in the car, and that they told very few people. And so to a bunch of people who saw it today, including all of us in the media and the fans, it was a complete surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. They kept it quiet. They kept it under wraps.
Well, I think they knew if they told probably the wrong three people, it would be all over. Now, there was speculation as of last night going into this morning that he actually might start the game at catcher, correct?
Yep, just as a moment, kind of like this,
the same
whatever.
type of thing, but this was far superior.
Way better.
This was great.
Way
so,
better.
Yeah, so Joe got his last time to catch, and now we'll either ride off into the sunset and or decide he's going to come back, in which case we'll all start to call him Brett Favre.
What?
It'll be as Favinian as anything.
Good thing we have someone with experience in the room who covered the Brett Favre waffling.
Do I want to catch again? Maybe. Do I not want to catch? Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I'll just I'll talk to my wife and see what she says.
Could I be the greatest 6'5" catcher in history? Maybe.
And the only thing we don't know is Belisle claimed he was trying to throw a strike. And Mauer said the agreement was it was not going to be a strike.
I called boo-boo on
that. And Molitor agreed with that as well. So
yeah,
I did find it interesting in Paul's post-game press conference, though, that he was asked the direct question of, are you prepared to go through this all again next year with Joe? And Paul was sort of defiant and said,
it's a great answer.
No, because we'll be playing our season won't be done yet.
He said we'll be getting ready for our next game at this point next year.
That's going to be our next and your next discussion.
Yes.
Is Paul back?
Yes.
And I think it is far, but I thought a week ago the answer was yes, definitely. Like with some maybes. Now I think there's a very good chance that he's not back.
Yeah. Yeah. You think Joe didn't want to do this catching thing because he was worried of catching a foul tip or because he didn't want the attention?
I think the thought of the attention bugged him at first.
Yeah.
And then
I do too.
You know what I think? I think the driving force is very simple. His dad. I think Joe is willing to put up with unwanted attention for himself because he knew. I don't think he did this for himself. I think he did this because he found out this was what his dad wanted, and he knows he's just about done playing. Mm-hmm. Joe is. And so I think this was driven by the fact that his wife and friends said, do this for your pops, and he said okay.
Well, and the word is his dad didn't know before. I mean, he had talked about it, of course, so it's not like a foreign concept to him, but that he didn't know it was going to happen until it happened in the ninth inning on Sunday. That's one of the coolest parts about this to me.
And my guess is that's why Joe cried.
Yes.
I don't think Joe cried for Joe.
No.
I think Joe is the type of guy who is probably emotionally sappy at times, which is fine, and I think he cried because of his dad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's all I got for you, sir.
Cool moment at Target Field on Sunday. Judd, thanks for joining the Touch 'Em All podcast. I'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Talk to you.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. TCL launched a new lineup of award-winning 4K Roku TVs to deliver the best sports, movies, TV shows, and thousands of streaming channels. TCL's personalized home screen makes it easy to customize your TCL to fit the way you watch. Binge watch what you want, when you want. TCL delivers excellent picture quality, sleek design, and stunning resolution at an affordable price. TCL, America's fastest-growing TV brand, is available at major retailers everywhere. Learn more at TCLUSA.com.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. The FBI investigation of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh may wrap up today, we're told. But Christine Blasey Ford, who accuses him of sexual assault, apparently has not been interviewed, nor has he. Does that worry key Republican Senator Jeff Flake?
Well, we have the statement of Dr. Ford, and then we have hours of testimony. So, frankly, when we talked about an FBI investigation, it was to follow up leads that might corroborate her account. So I'm not troubled by that.
Standing next to Senator Flake on Capitol Hill, his friend, Democratic Senator Chris Coons, for whom the speed of the investigation raises questions.
That would concern me. I hope the FBI has been allowed to follow all the reasonable leads from the credible allegations that were before the committee last week. And I know that puts them under a lot of pressure, but they've got the resources to do it.
He and Senator Flake were on the Today Show this morning. I'm Rita Foley.